Hey guys, it's Elliot, and today in this video I will be teaching you how to solve the Meffert's 4x4 checker cube. There aren't really any tutorials on the internet, so I figured this might help some people out. One thing I would recommend knowing how to do before you attempt to do this is knowing how to solve a regular 4x4, but if you don't know how to do that, that's fine. You should still probably be able to get this. So the first step, I'm going to really kind of oversimplify this here. There are a lot of things you could do to make it better, but basically you need to find lines. In a normal 4x4, you have to find lines of pieces like this that match, but since everything is checkered, you need to find lines of pieces like this that don't match. So once you find one of those, and on any given scramble you should have one, it's very, very, very rare that you don't, you find one of these and you put it on the left or the right, just kind of on one side of the center. Then you need to find another one, and I will just use this one, like this. And then this is just intuitive, but put them together so it creates a checkerboard. Say I did this, it would not create a checkerboard, so I would need to do it the other way. So now I have the checker pattern kind of in the center. And this is super intuitive. This is just something you're kind of going to get over time. But then for the second center, you need to know how to do it without disrupting the first. So say this is my first line, and my second line is going to be, I can either use this line or this line. And this line, I can tell when I insert it with R, U2, R prime, it does not create a checkered center, so I need to use this line, like this. And remember, a line is a white piece and a black piece right together. So once I insert that into the top, and we're doing this just like regular 4x4, I should have been more prepared. We're doing this just like regular 4x4, so on regular 4x4, when you're solving centers, you pair lines up like this. So you're doing the same thing on this. You're pairing lines up with R, U2, R prime to make a center. So you're just going to keep doing that. We have this line and this line match up like that. And then this line and this line you can insert with R, U2, R prime to make a checkered center. And then for the last two centers, you're just going to want to solve one, and the other one, most of the time it will not be solved. So I'm going to use this line, and this line wouldn't work because it makes, oh wait, I'm stupid. This line would work. So you're just going to want to make checkered center like this. So 5 out of 6 solves, this is like a center parity that you can get on this cube. You're going to have all of your centers solved, which means they're like checkered like that, except one, and it'll be lines. And what you want to do when you get this is super, super easy. So on a 3x3, you probably know the T-perm algorithm. Just R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F. R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. And you're going to want to do the same thing to solve these centers, but instead of using R moves, you're going to use wide R moves. So you put one of the lines on top and one on the bottom, so have them like horizontal like that, and then do a T-perm, but with wide R moves instead of R moves. And then that solves your centers. So basically centers are an intuitive thing with one algorithm that you need to know for the last two. Okay, so now that you have your centers, you need to solve your edges before you can move on to 3x3 stage. So you need to pick one side that you're going to start on, is like where you're going to put all your edges when you finish them. I'm just going to do this side, it doesn't matter, they're all pretty much the same. So first thing you need to do is see if there are any solved edges in the top layer. And a solved edge on a normal 4x4 would look something like this, where you have the colors paired up so it looks solved. But on this one, you need to think about it differently. So a solved edge is actually when two opposite edges are paired up like that. So we already have one solved edge in the top layer, which will happen most of the time. It's very rare that you don't have any solved edges. Most of the time, at least like 4 of your edges will start out solved. So next, I have this solved edge, and I'm just going to want to insert it into the top, just like you're doing regular 4x4. Like a lot of this is dependent on 4x4 knowledge. So then I have this edge. I'm going to insert it into the top. And then to insert edges into the top, in case you don't already know in 4x4, you put, in case you don't already know from 4x4, you put one of the unsolved edges in the front and do R, U prime, R prime, and then that inserts it. And then our last solved edge is here, R, U prime, R prime. So now we have a face with all solved edges, like this. So now on our second side, we already have 2 solved edges, which again is fairly common, but now we have no more solved edges. So this is where you're going to have to start learning some algorithms. But only one. You only need to know one algorithm for edges, and if you know regular 4x4, you definitely already know this. It's just the edge flipping algorithm. So say you have this unsolved edge and this unsolved edge. Keep in mind, one of them has to be black and one of them has to be white. You cannot have two white ones. The algorithm won't do anything. Or two black ones. They need to be two opposite color edges. You put them next to each other and do this algorithm. And that will end up solving both of them. So then just insert them both into the top. Just like I showed you before. Okay, so now you have your last four edges, and you're going to use that algorithm again to pair them up. So these two edges are opposite colors, but they are not solved because the colors match. So I'm going to do that algorithm once more. And then my last two edges are the same thing, black unsolved edge and a white unsolved edge, and you are going to do that algorithm to solve them. So edges, that is the easiest part of the checker cube, and now you are done with those. Okay, so now you have done the equivalent of like reduction on a 4x4, so it is time for 3x3 stage. So you're going to want to pick a side to start on. You can do this completely at random. I'm just going to pick on this side because it's a good example. So what you're going to want to do is look at your center and look at the edges surrounding it. Remember, all these edges should have opposite colors like this one, not the same colors because we did that in the last step. So you'll see how this edge and this center, if you look just at those four pieces, the top of the center and the edge right here, it should look like a checkerboard. So that's how you know this edge is solved. It's not flipped. So we're just going to rotate the cube. You look at only the center and these two pieces. So two pieces on the center and then the edge. It makes a checkerboard. So this edge is also solved. So we can move along. So now we look at these four pieces again. And if they make stripes like this, that's how you know this edge is not solved. So you need to flip it. And that is a super simple algorithm. It's not even really an algorithm. Think about it intuitively. But basically you do U prime, F, R prime. And then that's going to flip that edge. So now if you look at it, that is a checkerboard. And you're going to do that for your last edge. Once again, if you look at it like this, we have lines, so that's bad. So we know we need to flip this edge. So U prime, F, R prime. Now, all of the edges make a checkerboard with the center. So next thing you're going to want to do is you just solve what's equivalent to like a cross on the 3x3. So now you're going to want to solve your corners. So first thing you need to do is determine which corners go where. So this corner I know is solved already because these two pieces are black and this is white and you want the opposite color. So now this corner is not solved because these two are white, so this should be black because you can't have three white pieces next to each other because that doesn't make a checkerboard. So you're just going to want to insert a black piece by putting it over the white, over where it needs to go and doing R, U, R prime, just like on beginner's method in 3x3. And then this one we also know is not solved because we have two black pieces, so this piece has to be white, but it is black right now. So we put this white piece above its slot and do R, U, R prime. So now you have solved an entire checkered side. Next thing you're going to want to do is solve your middle layer. So you want to look at the corner here and see if it matches the edge directly above it. If it does, you're going to need to do an algorithm to flip this edge. And that algorithm goes like this. So this edge needs to be flipped because the center is white and the edge here is white. So we know this edge needs to be flipped. So you do R2. And then that flips that edge. I'll put that algorithm on screen. So now that edge is flipped, so you're going to do that for all the other edges. So rotate to this edge. We see black and black. And that is bad because that does not make a checker. So you're going to do that algorithm again. Rotate. You see this is white and white, not white and black. And we want it to be white and black because that makes a checker. So you're going to have to do that algorithm once more. And now we rotate to our last edge, and this one goes black-white. So we know this edge is good because black-white, and it's not black-black. If it were black-black, then we would need to do the algorithm because it wouldn't make a checker. So now you have essentially solved your first 2 layers. Don't worry that the centers aren't rotated correctly. We're actually going to fix that at the end. But right now we're going to move on to the top layer. So the first step in solving the top layer is the corners. If your corners look like this, where you have 2 blacks opposite and 2 whites opposite, then you are good. You have solved corners already. This will happen about half the time, and you can move on to the next step. But if you do not have that, your cube will look like this, where you have 2 black pieces next to each other and 2 white pieces next to each other. So when this happens, it's really easy to fix. You just need to put 2 of the matching pieces in the back and 2 of the matching pieces at the front. You can do it from any angle, or well, not any angle. You can do it from a U2 angle as well. I'm just going to do it black in front, white in the back, and you're going to do a T-perm, which you already know from 3x3, and then that solves your corners. Okay, so now you're ready to solve your edges on your last layer, and this is kind of the most confusing step, or the most hard step to explain, I would say. Maybe not the most confusing, but first we're going to have to learn how to tell if an edge is a good edge or not, as in, is it solved? So if you look at an edge and look at the 2 corners next to it, if no 2 same colors are touching, so like we're just looking at the top right now, if no 2 same colors are touching, like this one, then that edge is solved. So you're going to do that for all the edges. So this edge is not solved because 2 whites and 2 blacks are touching, so that edge is bad. This edge is good because there are no touching colors, and then this edge is bad because there are 2 colors, there are 2 whites touching and 2 blacks touching. So the first case that you're going to have to learn is when you have 2 edges that are unsolved and they are opposite from each other. So for this case, you're going to do this algorithm. Or you're going to hold them in the front and the back and do this algorithm. And that will solve those. One thing I did forget to mention last time is there are cases like this one that will look different depending on how your center is rotated. So don't pay attention to your center, just pay attention to your edges. So anyway, this case is when none of your edges are good. They are all matching their corners. And in this case is actually really easy. If you already know how to solve the 3x3, which you should, you just do your Z-perm algorithm. So whatever Z-perm algorithm you use should work. So you're just going to do that alg. So this next case is the same as this U-perm on your 3x3, the one with the opposite sticker on the right. So you can use whatever algorithm you use for that as long as it solves the U-perm from this angle. So how you recognize this is when you have 2 bad edges, which is these 2 because they match their corners, and 2 good edges, which are these 2. You're going to want to put the 2 good edges on the back and the right and do your U-perm algorithm. If you do not have any of those cases, either you do and you just don't realize it, or you have parity. And if you have parity, you can hold it from any angle, and after you do the parity algorithm, you will either solve your edges or you'll have to do one of the other algorithms that I've shown. But the parity algorithm for this cube goes like this. I do recommend using that algorithm because some parity algorithms don't really work. The last step is going to be twisting your centers. So you know a center needs to be twisted if the side does not look like a checkerboard. So this side does, but this side doesn't, so we know this center needs to be twisted. So to twist the center, you're going to hold one on the front and one on the right and do this algorithm. And then I have to do that twice because I had 4 twisted centers, so one on the front and one on the right, and do that algorithm. Now, there is a chance that, let me set it up really quick. There is a chance that you'll solve all of your centers except one, and in that case, you can't do that algorithm. You have to do whatever, you have to do the alg for this n perm on 3x3. So that's just R, U, R prime U, J perm, and then U2, R, U prime, R prime. And then congratulations, you have successfully solved your 4x4 checker cube.